guys, welcome back to In the Northwoods. I'm out here in the shop today, and I've been thinking about making this video for about 3 or 4 months now. And what I want to talk about today is Starlink. We've been using Starlink as our internet service provider for just over a year. We installed it December 15th, 2020. And I want to provide a quick 12-month update or 12-month review of the internet service from Starlink. But before I get to that 12-month review, I kind of want to just go over some basics. What is Starlink? Some tips and tricks for installation. How do you order it? Where is it available? And kind of maybe talk about the router a little bit as well. And then I'll get to my 12-month review. So stick around, leave a comment below about what you think about Starlink. Do you have it? Are you looking to get it? And I hope this video will help anybody make a decision if they want to get Starlink later on. So what exactly is Starlink? Starlink is a internet service provider, part of SpaceX, which is Space Exploration Technologies Corporation, otherwise known as SpaceX. It's a constellation of satellites that are orbiting the Earth in a low Earth orbit, approximately 550 to 1,200 kilometers above the Earth's surface. Compare that to other internet service providers that are, or the older technology of internet service from satellite internet. Those satellites orbited about 35,000 kilometers above the Earth's surface. So the Starlink satellites are much closer to their surface, which greatly reduce the latencies of the internet service. So how do you purchase, or how do you go about deciding if you can get it? The first thing I'm going to recommend, it's my biggest point that I've learned through talking with people through Facebook groups or other people in person, is that you really need to make sure you have the appropriate geographical location to use the internet. The first thing you need to worry about is, do you have a big enough view to the sky? And to do that, you need to download the Starlink app. Go in your app store, be it iPhone or Android, go in the app store, download the Starlink app, and then go in there. You don't need an account to download it. You can open the app and use the visibility function to check for obstructions. The Starlink internet service and the dish that you would install in your house requires a pretty wide open view to the sky. It's not just a single beam going up to talking to one satellite. The dishes that go on the houses talk to multiple satellites perhaps at once, but it's always connecting to different satellites as the satellites move across the sky. And I failed to mention it earlier, but the satellites are a constantly moving constellation that are moving over the Earth's surface. You can see here in this website called satellite-map.space, they have kind of a map of where all of the satellites are currently at and how they flow across their surface. And also what's nice about this website is that there's also the base stations that SpaceX or Starlink is using to basically communicate from the equipment at users' houses up to the satellite and then down to the base stations to connect into the hardwired internet around the world. So download the app, make sure you check for obstructions before you even go and sign up for Starlink. Once you decide, yeah, I've got a spot in my yard that can fit the dish, go to starlink.com, and that's how you sign up. Put in your address, and I believe there's a $99 deposit now, and Starlink will let you know if and when the service will be available at your house. Once you sign up, get a deposit in. At some point, when it becomes available, you'll pay a $499 fee for the equipment. That's right now prices, or what it was when I purchased. I believe the $99 deposit will go towards that equipment purchase. What you're buying is a router, power supply, and then the dish that goes in your house. Then after that, it's a $99 service fee per month, $99 per month for the internet service. There's no data caps at this point. I don't think there's going to be, but who knows with the way the internet is going these days. Now, how about the actual install? The actual install is really, really simple. I put a video about my install, a couple of them actually, did a 4-month and then also the unboxing, and I'll link them in the description below. But there's multiple options for installing the dish at your location. Starlink sells, once you are able to go in and purchase the kits, you can purchase a couple mounts from them. They have the volcano roof mount, which allows the dish to be attached directly to a house roof or some sort of flat surface. There's also a pole mount, which allows the dish to be attached to a pole. For instance, I purchased some hard or heavy duty steel pole from Lowe's, installed it on my roof, and I have the dish sitting in a pole mount on top of my roof. When you purchase the Starlink kit, it comes with a tripod already for temporary installs. I do know some people that use that as their permanent install. There's some holes on the end of the legs. You can screw them down. If you have a flat surface it can be attached to, such as a deck or even your roof, a flat roof. One thing to keep in mind is you really want the mast of the Starlink dish to be as vertical as possible. That way there's the best range of motion for the dish. The dish automatically adjusts, so you basically install the dish on top of your house, plug it in, and it'll automatically arrange itself to view the satellites in the sky or connect to the satellites it needs to. I've seen other people use older dish mounts for such as Dish Network or DirecTV that perhaps aren't being used anymore, or they're attached to the house. I believe the mast from the Starlink dish will slide right into the old mounts from those TV services. I've also seen people build larger poles or masts that will get the dish above tree lines for better view. If you have a lot of trees or a lot of vegetation in the area or buildings, you need to get that dish up higher to get above those obstructions, because number one, if you have obstructions, you're not going to have very good service. So people have built poles to get the dish above those obstructions. Cable length is another thing to consider. The round dishes that came with the first packages up through mid to late 2021, those came with 100-foot cables. They're hardwired into the dish, and then they go into the house attaching to a power brick. I believe the new square dishes or the rectangle dishes that have been coming out now from Starlink, those only have 75-foot cables. So when you're choosing a location to mount that dish, you need to consider the distance to where that power brick, which has to be indoors. After the power brick, another Ethernet cable goes from the power brick to the router, and then once you're all done, the install is done. You can just plug everything together, open the app, and go through the steps, and you have the install pretty much complete at that point. For the best performance, you need to make sure you have minimal obstructions or no obstructions. Use the Starlink app, the visibility function, and check to make sure you have no obstructions in the place you're going to be mounting the dish. It's very, very important. If you have obstructions, you will lose service randomly. There could be every 5 minutes, every 12 minutes. And where that really comes into play is if you are using the internet service for teleconferences or video calls or anything like that, or gaming where you need that instant connection or constant connection. If you're streaming video, when you're streaming a video, it buffers a certain amount of time of the video, and that will usually be okay once you have a connection to be able to stream a bunch of it. And then if the connection is lost for a little bit, you probably will not notice it. But if you need those constant connections, you need to make sure that there are no obstructions. Now, this internet service is not for everybody. If you have access to fiber or cable, I would highly recommend, and this is what I would do if I had access to fiber or cable, I would be going with that internet access. No problems, I would do it. Number one, it's going to be faster. You will have better latencies with the fiber or the cable internet. Yeah, you might have some data caps, but you will always have a mostly constant connection unless there's an outage or something system-wide. With the Starlink satellite internet, there's no data caps at the moment, but you also have problems with adverse weather conditions. I've had outages in heavy thunderstorms or very, very heavy snowstorms, or again, if you have obstructions, leaf cover or anything like that, you will lose connection. So the gaming or constant connections could cause problems. Now, speaking of snowstorms, I have not had troubles with accumulating snow. That's one common misconception about the satellite dish is it's going to accumulate snow in the northern regions. It doesn't. The dish, in the cold weather times, the dish is heated and the snow melts off. You can see in this picture here how there's icicles, or this video, there's icicles forming off the dish, and the snow is melting off the dish during a snowstorm. And that's, I think, is very, very cool to be able to not even worry about that. There was a heavy snowstorm last January. I had an outage, crawled up on the house, and there was no snow on the dish. And from what I think there was so much moisture and snow in the atmosphere above the dish that it was having trouble connecting to the satellites. Same thing with a heavy snow or thunderstorm, that the amount of clouds and rain and moisture in the atmosphere it'll cause a slight obstruction during those heavy storms. But ideally, if you have access to fiber or cable, or if you're in an urban area, that's the other thing. If you're in an urban area in a city, Chicago, New York, this isn't for you. You need to have a clear, open space to be able to mount that dish. And if you're in an apartment in the city, it's not going to work. There's not going to be anywhere for you to mount that dish. So stay connected with the fiber and the cable. The Starlink internet is more meant for people in rural areas that have an area in their yard to be able to mount that dish outside and have a clear view to the sky. Now, the router that comes with the dish, or the package, now keep in mind that I had a router that was sent to me just a year ago. It's a year old at this point. And the router that I had no problems with it. I was happy with it. It worked really well for my situation. Actually, I had an ASUS high-end router that I installed for a while, and I went back to the Starlink router. There is an auxiliary port on the backside of the router for connecting other devices into. I ran a switch out of that auxiliary port and then connected all of my hardwired devices into that switch. But the router worked pretty dang good for what we needed for in the house. Now, I did end up replacing this, and I'll link that video above. I needed an internet connection out here in the shop. I had a hardwire. It was having troubles, and I did not want to dig another hardwire in the ground, so I went with a TP-Link Omada complete network mesh type system, where I was able to put an access point in the house and an access point in the shop, and now I have internet out here in the shop as well. I don't need the internet out here in the shop for good latency or super fast connection, even though I do get over 150, 200 megabytes, I don't know what it is, per second download speeds. Out here, the latencies are up a little bit higher, maybe 50 to 60 milliseconds once I'm out here, compared to in the house where I can be 25 to 30 to 40 on a hardwire connection. But I did replace the Starlink router with a TP-Link Omada system, which is a router, network switch, the Omada controller. I have 4 access points, and now that system's fully expandable. I can get more access points, plug them into the system will fully adapt it, and I'll have a bigger mesh network in my yard, which is I'm looking forward to doing as time goes on. But overall, initially, the Starlink router was just fine. I know a lot of people do upgrade them, but I think it works fine for a standard home internet service. So now what about using remote devices, such as I've got a thermostat, that's a Sensi thermostat that's connected. I can connect to my phone. I have security cameras. I got a weather station. And in reality, I haven't had no troubles with any of those devices. The internet from Starlink acts as any other internet service provider would. You have access to those devices from anywhere in the world, essentially. When we were in Florida last year, I was accessing the security cameras and the thermostat from Florida with the Starlink internet here at home. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover on the front end. Now to the 12-month review. I'll keep it short and sweet, and number one thing is it's been awesome. For us, it's been a life changer. We came from the Frontier internet, DSL, megabits per second download speeds, 5 to 6, zero point 0.3 to zero point 0.5 megabyte per second upload speed, megabit per second upload speeds, the lowercase m, big M, little b, whatever that is. And Starlink is night and days way ahead of what that DSL was. We ended up keeping the DSL in through February, and then after February, the Starlink internet service is really stabilized for the last 8 months now, 10 months, and I've had no issues with using it in my daily work. Now I work from home 50 to 70% of the day of the week. I have many teleconferences, video calls, you name it, I've done it. VPN, I've had no troubles for the most part. Now there has been a couple of worldwide outages in the Starlink internet service. That hasn't only affected me, it's affected most of the other customers. They're very rare. I think it's only been once or twice since I've had it, a year now. But the Starlink internet has been awesome for us. We can stream videos, I can upload big files, I can upload videos to YouTube, and while I'm uploading, the kids can be watching something on Disney Plus or you name it, it works great. Only troubles I've had outside of those system-wide outages, we've had a couple of very heavy thunderstorms roll through, and right when the peak thunderstorm rolls through, that's when I receive an outage. You can see here in these statistics that I'm going to pop on the screen. You can see how the ping or it lost connection during the heaviest time of the thunderstorm, 5-10 minutes, depending on how big and how long the thunderstorm lasts. And then once the atmosphere settles down, the connection restores. I've had the same thing in a heavy snowstorm, as I mentioned, but otherwise, snow does not affect it. Snow will land on the dish and it'll slowly melt off, and the dish stays clear. The key with my install is I do not have obstructions. You can see in this video here that when the Starlink provides very good feedback, or the Starlink app provides very good feedback on if there's obstructions or not. And in this case, I don't have any. I have seen other Starlink apps where there are obstructions, and it'll show where it's obstructed, north, south, east, or west. And in my case, I have no obstructions, and I have very minimal downtime. The statistics that show up on my app are very consistent and show very minimal downtime. And you can see in this video, I have 0 outages in the last 12 hours of more than 2 seconds. And that's very typical for my installation. Others, if they have tree cover over their houses, that's the biggest thing, is they'll have obstructions. They can't do teleconferences, or perhaps even have troubles streaming videos. Now, it's been great. It's awesome. I don't have any negatives, I guess, from the Starlink internet. I'm really happy with it. I'm okay with the cost. It's $99 per month. I'm happy to pay that for the quality of service that I'm receiving, compared to the $450 I was paying for the Frontier DSL and the crap service that I was receiving from them. The slow speeds, slow uploads, customer service, yay or nay, was okay. I have not had any experience with Starlink customer service, so I cannot speak to that. I have early on, I emailed them a couple times, received a response within a couple days. So we'll see if I have any troubles in the future with any of the equipment that I'm using, and see how the Starlink customer service is. But if I had access, and I've mentioned this before, if I had access to fiber or cable, I would go with those, no problem. Most likely would be able to bundle with a TV service as well, which would be great there. But the latencies and the constant connection would be something I would look into and having. But I don't have that option, so Starlink is my only choice, and it is a wonderful choice for anybody in rural areas that need high-speed internet or a broadband connection. It's night and day difference above anything else you could have access to. Other antiquated satellite internet services or DSL that can be give or take 5 megabyte per second to 20 megabyte per second. It's night and day, heads and tails or whatever you want to say above those options. So if you have access to Starlink, you can get it, sign up, put your name in the hat, and go for it. It's definitely way better than those other options. So I hope this video helped you make a decision if you're going to go for Starlink, or if you're on the fence, or will it really work for me? Hopefully I provided some tips on what to check and make sure you download the Starlink app and check to make sure that it will work for you. And I hope you enjoy the video. Leave a comment below, let me know what you think. And until I don't know if I will do another Starlink video, we'll see. I don't really have much more to talk about. 1 year update is probably enough, but we'll see. You never know. So thanks for watching, and share with your friends. Bye-bye.